Hello, and welcome to the SSE Community Science Program's Adapt and Renew session. My name's Sierra Kruger, the SSE Education and Engagement Intern, and I'll be your host for this session. Thank you to Sustain for sponsoring the session, and as a note, you're welcome to add questions to the chat at any time during the presentation. We will also answer as many questions as we can at the end during the Q&A. So first of all, we ask that all participants in Seed the Future conference be respectful, be curious, be patient, speak from your own experiences, try to avoid jargon, be conscious of intent versus impact, take space or make space, take care of self, and by embracing these community agreements, we embrace a collective responsibility to create spaces that are respectful, inclusive, and empowering for all. So we're here today with Kate Rowe and Bree Burke. And Brianna grew up in the Driftless region where her mother instilled in her a love of the land and nature by being out in her garden, tending to flowers and vegetables every summer. As a child, Bree didn't care much for the hard work gardening required, but as an adult, she enamored with the power of gardening has to connect with our food and our land. Bree earned a bachelor's degree in conservation biology. During her studies, she noticed that almost every conservation issue came back to our broken food system. This realization inspired her to pursue work in food systems to address the array of symptoms caused by this disconnect, including nutrition, climate change, conservation, and sustainable communities. She's over the moon to be working as the seed bank manager at Seed Savers Exchange because she gets to live in her favorite place, Decorah, and work as one of humanity's most important issues in our food system by helping to preserve the seeds in our diverse garden heritage so people today and tomorrow can continue to connect with their food. Kate Rowe, the Seed Savers Exchange evaluation manager, began farming near Chicago after earning her graduate degree from Savannah College of Art and Design by serving in AmeriCorps. Later, Kate moved to the East Coast, where she started a restaurant farm, managed a CSA farm, worked on small-scale dairies, made cheese, and eventually ran her own small farm in the Hudson Valley. As the SSE evaluation manager, Kate is responsible for growing out, evaluating, collecting data from select varieties in the SSE seed collection, coordinating trials for the Collection to Catalog initiative, and running the Community Science ADAPT program. When she's not working, Kate loves to cook, spend time with her family and friends, bike, and garden. Today, Kate and Bree will be talking about how to get involved in the Seed Savers Exchange mission in your garden through our community science programs, Adapt and Renew. Kate and Bree, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Without further ado, go ahead and share with us what you have today.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Sierra. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this session on our 2 community science programs at Seed Savers Exchange, Renew and Adapt. My name is Brianna Burke. I am the Seed Bank Manager at Seed Savers Exchange. And the Renew program is an important part of my role.
And I'm Kate Rowe. I'm the evaluation manager at Seed Savers Exchange, and part of my job is running the ADAPT program.
Yeah, so today we'll take a look at community science as a broader framework for positive change and community engagement. Briefly, before we get into the details of Adapt and Renew and how they help Seed Savers Exchange achieve our mission of preserving the biodiversity of America's garden varieties, and as well as educating people on why it's so important. So, to get started, what is community science? So community science is scientific work undertaken by members of the general public often in collaboration with professional scientists or organizations. And this typically involves data collection or data classification. So in this case, Seed Savers Exchange is the organization that community scientists are able to engage with. And to get into community science from a gardening framework, I wanted to share a study that was done back in 2012 on the Iron King mine in Humboldt smelter site in Arizona. So this is a super fun site. It had been mined for much of the 1900s, and as a result is contaminated with plenty of lead and arsenic. You can see here's a picture of it. Looks like a lovely place to go for a walk. You got your warning sign not to go in because it is toxic. So the University of Arizona Tucson wanted to do a study on how arsenic levels in soil affect how those are absorbed into plants grown in that soil. So they were able to do this by engaging home gardeners who lived in the communities that are near this Superfund site and who have arsenic in their soil. And by engaging the community, they were not only able to get more data collected, more soil samples, more produce grown, but they were also to engage the community in this issue that is relevant to their health. And the study did find that there is a significant correlation between arsenic levels in the soil and uh, arsenic levels in edible parts of the plants that were grown by these home gardeners. And one of the reasons that community science is such a great option for gardening and agricultural studies in particular is that people have been doing data collection and observation um, since the beginning of time. And that's a big part of what community science is. So this slide here is a screenshot of a journal that was written by a farmer who lived in New York State back in the 1800s. And every day, his last name was Sherman, he would write down just a short entry for the day on what he did and would always include an observation on the weather. And this entry isn't greatly detailed or anything like that. It says a cloudy and threatening day. But researchers in 2015 were able to take his observations and use them to learn more about the microclimate where he was farming during the 1880s. He had a few years that they used, and they were able to use this information, compare it with the present day, and they were able to gain insights on how the weather has changed during that time that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do without this community members' observations. And actually, in a time of climate change, one very valuable set of information we have is there are records of the peak cherry blossom dates in Kyoto, Japan. And these were recorded by community members, whether it was monks, courtesans, governors. These observations of the peak cherry blossom date were written by community members in journals, publications, and since it was written down and recorded, today, Osaka Prefecture University staff were able to collect this information and compile it and see how the peak cherry blossom date has shifted throughout the years. And this is actually the oldest, longest running record of this type of data that we have. It goes all the way back to 800 AD. This is just an incredible set of data. And as you can see, the staff at Osaka Prefecture University put in a line, and you can see in very recent years that peak blossom date is just getting earlier and earlier. And this is due in part to climate change and as well as the urbanization of Kyoto. So this, how does this relate to Seed Savers Exchange and what community is science and how that helps us? Well, it ties in very closely to our mission. So I'll read that real quick. Seed Savers Exchange stewards America's culturally diverse and endangered garden and food crop legacy for present and future generations. We educate and connect people through collecting, regenerating, and sharing heirloom seeds, plants, and stories. So, renew and adapt are at the intersection of our goals. On one hand, a huge part of our goals is to preserve these diverse seeds. But on the other hand, we absolutely need to be engaging with the public and educating the public. And by using community science, we are able to achieve both of these goals simultaneously. And I'm going to pass it off to Kate to talk about ADAPT, and we'll see how ADAPT, and then later I'll talk about Renew, how these two programs help us achieve both of these goals. So Kate, I will pass it off to you.
Thanks so much, Bree. So I'm going to talk to you today about the ADAPT program, which is part of my position at Seed Savers. ADAPT is a community science program in which volunteer growers from all over the country and Canada are sent seeds from our collection to grow out, evaluate, and then send back data to us. These are seeds that are not available through the catalog, so it's really exciting for our participants to get to know and get to grow varieties from our own collection. This year in ADAPT, we are trialing these 7 crop types, including the first ever flower trial, which is sunflowers, which everyone was very excited about, and we have the most participants in that trial. Participants in ADAPT range from first-time gardeners to experienced farmers, and this year we have increased the amount of community gardens and school gardens that are involved as well. In the ADAPT program, growers can pick up to 3 different trials to take part in, and then they're sent 3 randomly selected varieties of each of those crops. For example, this year we are trialing 9 varieties of dwarf tomatoes, but each grower only received 3 packets of seeds for that trial. We ask that participants grow at least 3 plants of each variety and grow the varieties in the exact same growing conditions for comparative data. The evaluation team, which is myself and my colleague Sydney Weldon, grow out all of the ADAPT varieties on Heritage Farm as well and evaluate them alongside the program participants. In this slide, you can see us right there in our evaluation garden with only 2 heads from our ADAPT romaine lettuce trial. As you can see, we grew some very large lettuce this year. So the ADAPT program here is a really important part of my job, and we ask participants to evaluate different traits for each crop type, such as earliness, vigor, appearance, disease resistance, and flavor. Growers enter all of their data into a web platform called SeedLinked, allowing us to see the results in real time and to review all of the data by the end of the year. We then take this information to the collection to catalog committee, and we decide which varieties will go into the pipeline for production for the catalog. As you can see in this graphic, the entire collection to catalog process begins with a regularly scheduled increase grow out, which is also a seed regeneration grow out at Heritage Farm. The following year, the eval team, which is me and Sydney, we grow out a small amount of that seed and we study it more closely in the field. We take measurements on it, on the plants and the fruit, and we evaluate on traits like uniformity, productivity, and taste. Sometimes we even include all the staff at Seed Savers in a taste test, which is really fun in order to get more feedback. Then, based on these evaluation findings and on the needs of the catalog, we come up with crop types and varieties to include in the ADAPT program. We typically take the top 2 best performers in each crop type from the ADAPT program and recommend those to be grown out for the catalog. Increasing the amount of seed for these varieties can take several years before we have the quantity we need in order to release it into the catalog. ADAPT is, like I said, a very important program at Seed Savers Exchange, but for multiple reasons. First, it allows us to see which collection varieties do well in multiple different regions all around North America. As this map shows, each dot represents a grower. We also learn how adaptable the varieties are to our increasingly severe climate conditions. Finally, the ADAPT program allows us to test our or our collection varieties, before growing them out at a large scale for the catalog. Participation in the program has grown every year, and this year we had an unprecedented amount of growers with almost 700 participants in the program. This creates a lot of data and increases the validity of our findings at Heritage Farm, which allows us to choose only the best performing varieties to be introduced to the public through the catalog. This year for the ADAPT program, in addition to growing guides, we sent out seed saving instructions for each crop type to encourage our growers to save seeds from the varieties they like the best and want to grow again. We will also be inviting them to offer some of those seeds on the exchange, which is our community seed swap, where gardeners from all over the country offer seeds that they have grown. Overall, our goal with the ADAPT program and at Seed Savers in general is to open more and more of our collection to the public every year. Providing seeds to our ADAPT growers and receiving feedback on their progress is one step in a multi-year project, eventually leading to more heirloom seeds getting into the hands of gardeners and farmers around the world. Increasing crop diversity is one of many ways to help combat climate change for a more resilient future. And that does it for me, so I'm going to hand it back over to my friend Bree.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, right at the end there, you mentioned how our mission really centers a lot around making our collection available to the public. And Renew, as a community science program, is one of the important ways we are working towards making more varieties available to the public. Before diving into Renew and how the program works, it is so closely tied with how we manage our seed collection and seed bank that I'm going to explain that a little bit before going into how the program ties into it, because they're just so closely related. It's helpful to have that background. So you can see here on the screen on the left-hand side, that's our coworker Sarah in the seed vault, which is where every variety that has been donated to us has at least some seeds stored in here. It's being kept at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, low humidity for long-term storage. And that's where over 200,000 varieties are being kept safe and preserved. However, only about 8,000 of those 20,000 varieties are currently distributable to the public through the Exchange Yearbook. You can see our 2023 yearbook on the right-hand side. And the reason that there's such a discrepancy there is that when seed is donated to us, it frequently comes in small quantities, and we aren't able to distribute it if we only have small quantities. So before we're able to do that, we have to grow out each donation for seed increase. And this way we have enough inventory to keep it safely stored in the seed bank and enough to distribute to the public. So here is a slide showing kind of what we're doing on Heritage Farm to grow seeds for increase so that they can be available to the public. On the left is Rustler's White Dent corn, and this is a corn variety that we are growing for increase this year. So currently it is not available to the public through us. But after this next year, we will be harvesting a seed crop from it so that we will have distributable inventory. We, I think, just wrapped up hand pollination for it, and I think so far we got over 200 ears pollinated, so that's really exciting. And then in the middle here, I included a picture of a melon germination test that our germ tech took a picture of. And I included that because we don't just grow out varieties on Heritage Farm for increase, but also to maintain seed health. Seeds are living beings, and we need to make sure that we're able to renew the seed by growing them out before germination drops and they die. And on the far right-hand side here is a picture from the the greenhouse at Seed Savers Exchange, where varieties are being started for the growing season, including varieties from the seed bank that are being increased. And every year we do about 400 varieties for increase. And there's limitations on how many varieties we can grow out each year. This includes resources. We only have so much staff. We only have so much space, equipment, time, isolation distance. So, I include a picture here of our wonderful pollinators. We love them. We need them. But that forces us to really have to spread out what we're growing. And it's kind of like a logic puzzle getting our fields mapped out of making sure we don't have varieties of the same crop type too close to each other. And that's a picture of Natalie, our germination technician, during corn hand pollination of Rustler's White Dent this year. So in some varieties that are wind pollinated, same thing, we really have to consider keeping those separated. So that really creates a space issue. And then also climate. We are in the far right-hand upper corner of Iowa, putting us in zone 4B, and not all crop types grow well here. So that's another limitation on growing varieties for increase. So one of our strategies to increasing our capacity so that we can go from only 8,000 varieties available to the public through the exchange to all 20,000 plus that we have in the seed bank is the Renew Community Science program. And it's under the community science umbrella, but really I think of it as community stewardship and shared seed saving. And the goal of Renew is that participants are performing their own seed increase grow out. Exactly what we're doing on Heritage Farm, but at their own home, in their own garden, on their own farm. And the way it works is if someone's interested, they can send me an email and basically we'll chat. So I can get a sense of what they're interested in, what their seed saving experience is. We do ask that folks who are participating have had previous seed saving experience because we want to set people up for success. And based on what their interests are, I will send them a list of varieties from the seed bank that are low quantity, but not so low that if they were to experience a crop failure, that's the rest of our seed. We don't want to put that kind of pressure on people, but it's low enough that it's not distributable. So I will send them some varieties. They can say what's most interesting to them. And early in the spring, I will send some seed their way. And then throughout the growing season, we check in every once in a while. I'm always available for questions if growers have them. And each crop type has various requirements. So, isolation distance requirements that varies by crop type, but is very important to make sure the seeds don't end up being cross-pollinated, and also plant population minimums. We want to make sure that we are capturing the genetic diversity of each of these varieties, and to do so, we need a minimum number of plants that seed is being harvested from. So Renew growers follow these guidelines, grow a variety, and if all goes well, have a seed harvest in the fall, which they send to us, and we package it up, lot check it the next year to make sure it matches its description. It is what we think it is, and we germination test it. We test the seed moisture content, and then it is made available to the public through the exchange. So we just absolutely love our Renew growers because it really is an undertaking. It's a lot of work, but it is such important work, and it goes to the heart of Seed Savers Exchange because it's preserving rare varieties, making them available to others to be shared, and people are engaging in seed saving. That's all that we are about. And Renew is a new program. It's been running for about 3 years now. And during that time, we've had about 70 growers who have successfully regenerated approximately the same number of varieties. So it's super exciting. We're super interested in building the program, expanding it, making it a space, a community space for people to interact and to keep stewarding these seeds, so that, you know, they're not just sitting safely in our seed bank, but also in the hands of the public. All right, I'll pass it back to Kate.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Bree. So in conclusion, our mission at Seed Savers is to preserve and share our garden and food crop heritage, but also to build community around seeds. These two community science programs allow us to do just that by engaging the public to participate in our important work. Both the Adapt and Renew program help us preserve seed that can be passed down through future generations. And if you would like to know more about the ADAPT program and you already are interested and you want to sign up, you can do so at our website there at that link. Or if you're just curious about either Adapt or Renew, you can feel free to email either Bree or myself at those addresses on the screen. And now we will turn it over for questions.
Thank you so much. This was great. So we have a few questions actually coming in here. Let's see. So we have a great question from Diane Fisher here that says, how do gardeners in the ADAPT program prevent cross-pollination of the 3 varieties of a plant if grown under the same conditions?
Oh, well, in the ADAPT program, we are not saving seed from that necessarily. I mean, we're not saving it for our collection. They don't send seeds back to us. So for our purposes, it's less important that they remain true. But for the home gardener who is in the ADAPT program and wants to keep a true line of genetics going from one year to the next, they would have to isolate, or like with our romaine lettuce trial, they can bag their lettuce at flowering stage before it goes to seed, and then save the seeds that way. Every crop has different isolation distance requirements, so it's not too hard with certain crops, but it gets more difficult and complex with other crops.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. It looks like we have another question here. Are both programs open for other countries, or is it for US public?
I'll speak for the ADAPT program first, and we are open to Canada. We ran into some trouble trying to enlist someone. Someone wanted to join this year from Australia, but we had to unfortunately turn them down because of just shipping issues to other countries. So we're open to the US and Canada for now.
Yeah, and for Renew, it's the same situation, Canada and US, and the reasoning behind that is difficulties with shipping seed internationally. So,
Yeah. Okay, great. And then I have a question here. So, Kate, what are some of your favorite varieties in the catalog or exchange that have come from the ADAPT program?
Oh, that is a really good question. Um, I'm relatively new to my position at Seed Savers. I've been at Seed Savers now for 3 years, but I'm pretty new to the evaluation manager position. So I haven't been looking at past years' ADAPT programs necessarily, but I can speak to what I'm really excited about this year, um, which is some of our beets turned out amazingly well for this year's ADAPT program, the white and gold beet trial, which we just evaluated. Um, I'm also really interested in our dwarf tomato trial because that if we can get a dwarf tomato or two into the catalog, I think that our customers would really like that, especially anyone who's trying to grow in a city or just has a limited space in which to grow. I think those would be that would be a really good crop to put into the catalog.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Um, so, Bree, what is your favorite part of working on the Renew program?
oh, that's a great question. And the first thing that comes to mind is just getting to interact with our Renew growers. We have such a great bunch, and every year it's about 20 growers. And there's such enthusiastic people who care so much about uh, preserving these seeds and the Seed Savers Exchange mission. And it's just so cool interacting with people with such enthusiasm. And as you can imagine, they're doing very cool things outside of Renew in their own lives as well. I just love hearing about other work being done in the world that's so important. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then the second thing is, so as I mentioned previously, Renew is a new program. This is the third or fourth year, and during these years, we've really been focusing on, how do we make sure that the seed that's coming back to us is, true to type and genetically broad enough to be, for long-term preservation in a seed bank, because that's what we're doing. And now that we've kind of got a handle on that and communication and kind of the logistics of things, we're really turning to focus on making it more of a community. So this year we had our first virtual Renew Grower meetup, and it was a blast. So I'm really looking forward to having more community interactions, and growers are spread out throughout North America, so it'll be virtual, but as fun as being in person is, it is great to be able to connect with these people from all over the country and Canada too. So,
well, thank you so much, Bree and Kate. We're running out of time here, but I just want to thank both of you for this great presentation, and thank you for all that attended. So we'll be signing off now, but thank you all.
Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye.